Welcome to another episode of the Leadership Detectives. Thank you for joining us again. We are so pleased this week to be joined by a special guest, an old friend of Albert's and ours who we've seen grow through her career over the last 25 years. Carmina Lees joins us. And if you want to learn about how to manage your career, how to progress your career, what a good leader does, how to really just engage at work in the best way you possibly can, how to manage your life, and how to be a woman in business as well, and in senior role in business, then this is a great episode for you to listen to. Please keep subscribing. Please keep giving us comments and thumbs up. We love every bit of feedback you give. You're going to get loads out of this episode, so look forward to hearing your feedback. Have a great time. We're recording. Okay, right, here we go. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and we're live. Over to you, Albert.
Hey, good morning. Welcome back to Leadership Detectives. So we're going to have a new session for you here today. We said we're going to bring another guest along, but before we do that, Neil, how are you? Good to see you.
I'm outstanding, thank you. Yeah, I'm delighted. Lockdown finishes this week. Not that it makes any difference at all to sitting here, working from here, etc. But no, it's great to see a new person joining us to be interviewed today. So Albert, why don't you introduce our guest, please?
Indeed. So guys, we're really privileged to have with us today Carmina Lees. Carmina and I worked together back in IBM many years ago. I can't remember, Carmina, probably 5, 10 more years. And Neil worked with Carmina as well over the period. Since then, Carmina's been off and done other things. So her title today is Managing Director of Financial Services Accenture. Carmina, welcome. Good to see you.
Thank you. I'm really honoured that you've actually asked me to be on this great show. So thank you very much.
Oh, that's a great start. What a
great...
you know,
little so.
And so this is Saturday morning. We really appreciate you giving your Saturday, a half an hour, 40 minutes of your Saturday morning to us, really to help us with the kind of find those clues around leadership to help the people who are listening to this, just so that people get to know you a little bit better. If you were walking onto stage and you had a compere introducing you onto stage, how would you want to be introduced? What would you want this mixed audience of 1,000 people to know about Carmina Lees?
Oh wow, that's a question and a half, Neil. Thanks for that. Well, I think maybe a bit about, I've been within the technology industry for it's about 22 years now, which is a bit scary, which makes me feel really old when I say that. I'd like them to bring, I'm very passionate about women in technology, really passionate about that. I have a big passion for cybersecurity as well. And I'm a mum. And so I think, trying to, as most people, men, women, everybody, we're always juggling. So I think the intro, I'd like it to be, what I'm passionate about, what I've sort of been doing, but don't forget the mum bit as well, because that's important. So I don't know if that really answers your question. A bit of a boring intro, maybe.
It was more about how you would introduce yourself. How many kids have you got?
I have 2 girls.
2, yeah. How old?
They are 7 and 11. So yes, yeah. So I push on them quite a lot about being in technology and try and make it fun for them, which they currently think is a bit boring. But then when I talk to them about, you look at these new apps and you look at Disney World with the, the watches and the badges that you could get into your room, get into things, try and make it a bit more live for them to make it exciting. Start from a young age, as I say.
And is that something you'd encourage people to do then? To start getting their children thinking about technology? Yeah,
for me, it's I've talked at our school, I've talked at different events, and when I've been on panels and stuff, I think sometimes we start a bit late. I think we, in schools, and we try and start maybe like GCSE time, and I just think that can be a bit late. You think of the environment our children are up in today is so different to what we grew up with, and now you look at global pandemic, it's forced us into a whole new digital world. So I'm quite passionate about it. I just think we need to start younger So yeah, it's something I do go on about a bit. I think my girls get a bit bored of it, but,
And you're entitled to. Why not?
exactly.
Why not?
Yeah.
Carmina, you and I have known each other for quite a few years, right? And I know you for when you were a professional before you even got into management, right?
Yeah.
And now you're here as a managing director in Accenture.
Yeah.
What are your proudest moments of your career? Think about some of the proudest moments of your career.
Oh, I've got a lot actually. So I think a big thing for me was making director at IBM, and I was 6 months pregnant at the time. Not that that mattered, because it is all about merit and you got there for the right reasons. But I was so proud, the day I got that certificate, and I got there a lot quicker than I thought, and I was very proud of that as well. But yeah, it was an amazing time when I got the call from the current general manager just before Christmas. It was made my Christmas. So very proud, and knowing that I could sort of step away and have my second daughter and almost relax, knowing that I'd got to where I wanted to get. So that was a really proud moment for me.
Yeah.
But I've got a lot actually. I am really proud of everything I've achieved. I started out cold calling on telephones working in IBM. So I look at some of the things that I've done. So yeah, so I'm very proud actually.
I think the interesting thing is, because you and I have worked together, as I said, over a number of years, and I think what you achieved was by doing a great job of what you were doing at the time. And that's one of the messages that we've passed through to our audience before, right? Don't try and accelerate your career too quickly, but do a great job and make yourself proud of the things you're doing then, and it will take you to the next place. So,
agreed.
yeah.
I think it's a leader that we all know pretty well, a Canadian guy, used to say to me, "Oh, Carmina, your career is, a marathon, not a sprint," and it used to drive me mad. But he's so right, because it really allowed me to think about some of the decisions I made when I was looking at one job away or the next move. I actually find myself saying it today, and I almost kick myself thinking, I can't believe I'm even repeating that annoying statement he used to say to me. But it is right. It does. You can't always be on a mission. Sometimes things don't work out as maybe if you had a bit of a plan.
True.
So yeah.
So I think one of the famous speeches that Steve Jobs made at a commencement of one of the universities in the US was, he talked about you can't join the dots forward, you can only join the dots backwards. So if you look back on what you know now, sitting in the position you're in now, looking back on what great nuggets of advice or key moments or key things did you do that in your career that might be useful for people listening on here to learn?
I think there were a couple of things. I did have a little bit of a plan, but I wasn't rigid with it. I sort of knew where I wanted to get to, or I thought I did. So I always in my head, I wanted to be a well-rounded leader. So I thought about the roles that would maybe get me to that point of becoming a well-rounded leader, and which roles would help me get there. A few things, I always would take roles that really took me out of my comfort zone, where I'd be feeling sick, thinking, what am I doing? Even, I had moments where I'd phone my friends and just be like, oh my God, he's just asked me to do, I don't know what to do. I don't even know how to use Excel, I do these silly things. But gosh, did I learn from those, really learn. So I think stepping out of your comfort zone is such a good thing to do, even though it doesn't feel great at the time, but looking back, it was really good.
You blagged it well. I never realized you were ever struggling.
Honestly, I'm a master tap dancer. Yeah. Good blagging. Yep. But also what has been really vital, I think, to me is my network and knowing people. And I have spent my life, and a lot of people have heard me talk about this before, buying people tea and coffee. I must have spent millions. But I've always been very interested. When I was thinking about where I would move next, I'd go and ask, a senior leader, could I have even 15 minutes of your time to understand what you do, what your business does? And then I'd always ask them, who else would you recommend I go and speak to? And then it would be a new person. And then then I'd say to that new person, because people don't like to do a cold email, even if they work in the firm. So I'd say, oh, Bob said you'd be really good to talk to about your. So then I would build out this almost a mini LinkedIn network.
Yeah.
And
no, go on. So I'm sorry to interrupt you. I was just going to say,
no.
So did anyone ever say no?
Never.
No
one ever. And people, I say it to some of the people in Accenture now, oh God, I can't email him. Have you seen how senior he is? I'm like, of course you can. No one ever says no. They love talking about their business, their career. Who would say no to that? You know, if you ask for 15 minutes, you know full well it's going to be half an hour.
Yeah.
So I did that. And then what I did do, I was careful in my approach as well, because I knew who would then also be at the top table.
Yeah.
So when the decisions came up for some of those jobs, I'd be like, I need at least 3 people to know me. So I'd look at our exec team, and if that named them up and they'd go, oh, I met her actually, she's got skills in this, and someone go, oh, I know her, might not know me that well, but good enough that your names come up a little bit at the top table. And it would just help me with that next move.
Really good advice for our audience here.
Network as well.
Yeah, absolutely fantastic. Listen, you just said leader on here for probably one of the first times in our conversation, right? So this is the Leadership Detectives, and this is about being leaders. I know that you've got a great reputation, right? Certainly, I don't know about Accenture, so I'll have to say I knew you had a great reputation.
Yeah, it's all gone downhill, Albert.
But you had a great.
Yeah, Carmina told us the other day that she had a great reputation.
Exactly. But you had a great reputation as a leader in IBM, right? So tell us about some of your best moments about being a leader, not about being a, in the role, but about being a leader, leading people.
It's I have a real passion for leadership. I think there's nothing better when you have a team and you are a team and you're all in it together. You know where you're going, you know where you're heading, towards, if you've got that strategy or whatever. And I get my leadership style might not be for everyone as well. And I've learned that as I've gone through my career, but I think, when you're all firing on all cylinders and that team are behind you every step of the way, we've talked about this before, that I know if I had to make calls at 2 a.m, I know who'd be in that. If I'm like, we all need to get in the office, I knew who'd be there. Yeah. And that for me was just knowing they had my back and I had theirs all the way as well. I think when you've got that trust and camaraderie, and we had fun. I mean, that's best part of being a leader, is having fun as well, and everyone being, I talk about being in the same boat, being in the boat together.
But that's a really good point you make about you've got their back, they got yours, right? Yeah. What about when it goes wrong?
What, when, in terms of,
how do you handle that, right? When you're the boss and things don't go to plan, how do you handle that?
I think it's tough. I think, someone always said to me, a sign of a good leader is to be able to have the tough conversations as well as the good ones. You've been promoted, you've got a pay rise. But then there's also, I think I'm very open and honest. Sometimes I would maybe wear my heart on my sleeve a bit too much, but and what was hard, I think, as well, to have those tough messages. A lot of the people I grew up with in IBM, some of them even now are my closest friends, and they sort of end up in your team, and having a tough conversation with somebody that you're good friends with is difficult. But I think, Albert, you've got to be open and honest. And I think if you've been an authentic leader, and people know that about you, they know that you're delivering a tough message, but you have to do it in the right way and just be open and honest. I think I've seen some leaders that they just can't have those tough conversations, and they make it worse because they're skirting around the issue and they get somebody else to do it. But it is hard. I mean, you wouldn't be human if you didn't take those things personally. I've, had sleepless nights when I'm going to have to tell somebody that I really like some pretty bad news, but it's, again, it is a sign of your leadership style and how you manage these situations, and actually showing you care afterwards as well.
Yeah, good point.
And you mentioned something earlier, which was authenticity as a leader. And there's a word I wrote down, which is around, as you were talking, which was trust. Because it sounds like you build trust within your the team that's working for you. But how do you do that? How do you get a team to trust you and for you to trust the team so that you know that they will be there for you when you need them?
Yeah, it does take time. I don't think it happens overnight unless there's people, when you move in some of these roles, you do try and you want to build out, if you're taking over from somebody, you do want to build out your own sort of leadership team as well and have a good sort of expert. That really does take time, Neil, I think. I think for me, I really try and get to know my team, and I want them to know about me as well, and about maybe a bit about my personal life, like how I work or how I like to work. And I think, if we can all share, like that and open up to each other, I think you do start to build that trust. It's little things, sometimes we all go into a Monday morning and we forget to ask, how was your weekend? And I like to know about my team's families and maybe their names, and so I can make it a bit more personal. And I just think you end up build a friendship, but then I think there's a line which can be tough, that you're also leader as well.
That's forgive me saying, and our audience might not like this, but I think that's much more likely with a female leader, right?
Yeah.
You're very open to those conversations. You're very willing to have that. Neil and I have done talks about vulnerability, right? And what you talked about there is about being vulnerable, right?
Yeah.
You talked about opening up about the things that were troubling you and what you're doing. Some people won't do that. How do you feel about that?
I think I can't change. I've got to my age now, I'm 28 now, getting on a bit, so you can't change how you are. And I think I'm quite a positive, upbeat person. I like to have fun. I think we're all at work a lot of times. You can have fun while you're there, but there are days I just want to shut my office door. And we all have those days, and I think more so in this current climate. But I will open myself up and say to somebody, look, I'm just not feeling it today, just having a bit of a bad day. And that's just me. I can't hide who I am. So I think for me, Albert, there's Jean touched on it as well. There's a time and a place to do it, I think. But then if you've built also that trust with your team, I think you've got that, you can share that, just say, I'm not having a great day today, to be honest. And I'm happy. I actually feel comfortable to do that.
Yeah.
So sticking on the theme of women leaders, what advice would you have for women leaders in tech or outside of tech? Or people or women who want to become leaders.
Yeah.
What would be good advice you could give them?
I think just having a bit of confidence. I think sometimes with women, we do doubt ourselves, and I don't want to do the women v man card, but we do doubt ourselves. If me and Albert went for a job, Albert, I know, would go, I've got this in the bag. I know I would step back and go, I don't know if I can do that. Well, I haven't got experience in that. I've not done that before. We are very different, and that's why we all complement each other. But I think it is have confidence in yourself. And I think sometimes we miss that. We need to back ourselves a bit more. And just also saying no. Sometimes women are a bit rubbish at saying no. Yeah. And I remember one of the most powerful things I ever did. I returned from maternity leave, and I think I'd just been made, in the director role. So I felt a lot of pressure. And everyone said, right, we all need to get back on a call tonight, and we need to get on this call at 6:30. And my stomach went, because I thought, oh my God, I'm bathing the girls. I mean, I can't do a call then. And I thought, I'm just going to say it. And I remember as I'm saying it in my head, I'm going, oh, you're about to say no to a call. And I had to be on that call. It was with a lot of senior leaders. And I said, I'm so sorry, but I can't make 6:30 tonight. That I'm bathing my children and it's bedtime. Yeah. And I said, but I can do a call at 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock, but I just can't do that time. And as I said it, it was awful. I felt a bit like, oh, it was really bizarre. But then I had about 12 instant messages from people saying, men and women, I'm so glad you said that. I don't want to do a call at 6:30, and everybody started pinging me. And then the most senior person on that call went, okay, everyone all right with 8 p.m? And everyone went, yeah, brilliant. But it was the best thing I ever did. And I always had that nervousness. So I think saying no sometimes can be so powerful. And I think women struggle with that.
It sounds like there's two things you've said there. One of them is about women backing themselves, being prepared to step forward where with the confidence. And the second one there, having the courage to say no in that kind of environment. Both of those take a level of courage and confidence. How do you get that?
I do think it takes time because I think it just takes time in your own self to you get to the point where you sort of, you believe in yourself a lot more. I've accomplished quite a lot of things. I know I'm a good leader. I've done well. And I've got the confidence now to say that. And I've also got to a certain level, that I can say that. But I do think it takes time, definitely, Neil.
There's I always knew today was going to be a challenge over time, right? Because we knew talking with you, there's going to be so much content that we can cover, and it's fantastic.
It's be a challenge. I'm like, oh, cheers.
No, listen, really absolute privilege having you on, and this is really useful stuff for our audience, right? So what Neil's planned to follow is we're going to have a bit of a quick fire on some questions before we just wrap up. But before we do that, we've gone into certain areas that we've asked you questions about. It's your stage as well, Carmina. Is there anything you'd want to raise around leadership to share with current leaders who are trying to be better leaders and aspiring leaders? Is there anything you'd want to make sure you didn't miss getting across this morning?
I think I've said it, but I would just say, look, be authentic. I mean, we do use that word a lot, but be authentic. Do take your real self to work, and be human as well. Remember, people have got other things going on outside their lives, and sometimes people having a bad day. Just ask them how they are. That truly human. So authentic, truly human, and I think empower people as well. Empowering your team is just. I mean, the results you get from people, when you do empower them as a leader. And I think the last thing, just have fun along the way. I mean, it's so important. You want to be a leader that people want to be with, and, you've got to have fun.
So how do you do that? How do you have fun with your team? I get involved in lots of workshops and team building events, and we do all sorts of big fun stuff for companies. But that's the big stuff where you plan it in advance. How do you have fun on a day-to-day basis?
Well, I think I'm a comedian anyway, so I'm not, unfortunately. So I don't know. I think it's, when you build up that team, though, you're all comfortable enough to sort of take the mickey out of each other a bit, and just, again, it's most of we're all being authentic with each other, so we're able to do that. But I don't. It's a hard question, Neil. I think it's, again, if you're truly human and you've got a good team that you can trust, you all feel comfortable to do that anyway and have a bit of fun with each other. So I just think it's just not taking things so seriously all the time.
I just wrote that down. I actually wrote down those exact words. Don't take life too seriously. And I think that's a great bit of advice. So I still live like that now. I always live like that. And when you feel the time when you do start taking it too seriously, that's when you feel the pressure. That's when you lash out at people. That's when that's when you become a bad leader.
Yeah, I mean, I can vouch for that. I worked with Neil. He didn't take things very seriously.
That's good,
fair point. Okay,
people love working for you because of that.
So listen, I've just written down. I'm just going to so on the leadership stuff. Be authentic. Be human. We've heard that lots of times.
Yeah.
Empower and trust your team. One thing I've written down here, because it kept coming up, is have courage. You talked about stepping outside your comfort zone. You talked about pushing yourself forward, about saying no, so having courage, and then having fun. So I think there's 5 great tips there. So let's go on to just fire a couple of quick questions and answers at you just to wrap up. So Bertie, you go first.
Leadership role model.
Can I say the name?
Yeah, of course you can.
Yeah.
Most people would disagree. Bruce Ross is one of my leadership role models.
And why?
Because I had working with him for that year, just to see him run a business the size of the business he did, and the pressures and focus, but have fun on the way. I just learned a lot from him, things that I still use now. And again, I know I've got to be quick on this.
No?
Not everybody's going to love your leadership style. Some people will think I'm great. Some people won't stand me at all. But it's what you get out of that person. But yeah, he is one of mine.
And he was basically, for those people who don't know, Bruce Ross was a general manager of one of the services businesses within IBM UK.
And about 3 years ago was CIO worldwide, CIO of the year across the globe, right?
Yeah, so he's still a good friend and mentor as well. But again, to our point earlier, I've got a lot of people like, you know, that you go to for different things, and that I'd seen role models in different ways.
Okay. Neil.
So, second question. If you were going to gift a book on leadership to anyone, or new leader perhaps, what would be the one book you'd go to and say, you must read this as a new leader?
Oh, wow. Do you know, I'll be completely honest with you. I struggle with some of those leadership type books. That's just my personal view. Sorry, everybody. I don't think I could pick a leadership book, to be fair. I've started a few, and I just, I think, just not for me.
Well, let me expand the question then. What book would you gift to maybe someone in your team, or what book have you gifted the most?
What book have I gifted the most? That's a really hard question. I mean, I really like Sheryl Sandberg's book of Lean It. I mean, I do really like that book.
Yeah.
That's something that I read that and thought, oh, yeah, get that, I get that. And a good few of us read that all at a similar time, actually. There's another book called Presence, and I can't remember who that's from, but some of the things we've touched on today, having confidence, you know, sort of backing yourself. That was a really good book as well.
Okay.
Okay, so let's go a slightly different level on that. Rather than the book, what about a quote? Is there a leadership quote that you'd want to leave with the audience that's watching us here today?
I think your career, I can't believe I'm about to say it, you know, your career is a marathon, not a sprint. But honestly, it always sticks in my mind, and it's really helped me in certain decisions that I've made, maybe sometimes just to slow down a bit.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. All right. Good. Bruce is getting good rating here, isn't he?
Yeah, is he? Yeah.
So we just asked two more questions. If there was one major must and one major must not of leadership, what would they be?
Sorry, if there's one major must,
you know, if you were going to talk to a leader about what, I think we've covered this with some of the other points, but if there was one major must, you must make sure you do this as a leader, and there was you must make sure you do not do this as a leader, what would those two things be?
I think it goes, be authentic. I think that's critical.
Okay.
And I think you must not, I'd say, oh gosh, that's a tough one. Goes back to sort of trusting your team, like always have your team's back in a way.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It's a really interesting.
I guess I'd turn that into a must not then. I guess that would be around micromanaging. Don't micromanage.
Yeah.
Or
goes that empowerment. Yeah.
Don't throw
them under the bus.
Don't throw them under the bus.
All had a few leaders that have done that.
Yeah. No, everything the team does that's good it was all down to them. And everything the team does that was bad, it was down to the team.
Yeah, exactly. And here comes another bus.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So look, that's been brilliant. We've captured loads and loads of great information there. Albert, look, I'll hand over to you to kind of do a bit of a wrap up.
Yeah, listen.
Before you do your wrap up, what book would you recommend then? Because that would be good. I'd be interested to say, because there's so many out there, so many, and I've struggled with you. So is there a book that you would say, honestly, Carmina, read that?
So the book I give to, when I start coaching leaders, and I coach a lot of leaders, the first book I give to people these days is Jocko Willink's book, which is called Extreme Ownership. And we actually did a podcast on it, I don't know, however long ago it was. But actually, I'll tell you what, I'll get your address and I will send you it.
Okay. Don't stalk me though.
Yeah, but you'll have to get it quick. Which address?
Yeah.
But no, so
Right, sorry,
that's mine. That's good question, Albert. What would yours be?
But that's a good one. When we just talked earlier about when it goes wrong in the team, this book will be a great thing for you to read. What would mine be? Really sad, right? Because we're going back a long time. I would still give people the 1 Minute Manager.
That's my
I
second
would
one.
still give people the 1 Minute Manager, Ken Blanchard.
I've got it in my bookcase there because that's
and I've got it up there. I would still, it's still true today as it was then.
Yeah.
And the key phrase that I use with, doesn't matter what level of leader I work with, the one thing that I take away from that book and I keep saying to people is, as a leader and a manager, is only do the things that only you can do. And it's such an important thing to remember every single time, because well, lots of reasons, but we won't go down that road now.
Guys, listen, really good session today. Really happy. So glad that you came and joined us, Carmina. Amongst the things I've written down, I don't normally regret much. I try not to regret anything. I've written down a regret. And my only regret is I never worked for you. My only regret is I never worked for you, because it sounds like I'm missing out on TV. Yeah, I'll send it through. And there's no guarantee, right? You'll take a look at it.
Well, good interview process.
Carmina, it's been an absolute pleasure having you here. I hope the team have enjoyed it, and I have a suspicion we might get back together again at some other point in time. So thank you very much for joining us. Guys, I'm going to hand back to Neil to do our normal close off.
Oh, okay. I'll just quickly do please subscribe, please give us a thumbs up, please leave us comments, and we look forward to seeing you in the next episode. Cheers.
So we're not far away. It's December in a few days' time, so I guess we could say enjoy the festive season with the 2 other families you're allowed to mix with. Have a great time. Carmina, anything from you before we close?
I just want to say a massive thank you. You guys doing this for me. I mean, you were 2 leaders that everybody wanted to work for, to be fair. And we've all learned something from you in our careers, people that have had the privilege to work for you. So amazing. Thank you for doing this. It's great. And thanks for having me.
Welcome. Great. Have a great weekend.
Thank you.
Talk to you later.
Guys.
Cheers, guys. Take care.
Bye.